Before I really started talking my talk on camera, I used to talk about subjects like self-love. And the reason I honestly stopped is because I started to realize that a lot of the people that were listening to me weren't actually hearing what the hell I was saying. Right? There's some sort of cognitive dissonance that comes from an individual who is in a place where they are treating themselves without a level of self-respect, but yet they're telling themselves that they respect themselves or love themselves. And I believe that I was just as guilty of adding to that cognitive dissonance, right? It's like when you preach self-love, somebody will say to themselves, I love myself. Yes, I love myself. I love myself. But yet you're still moving in a way that is in direct opposition to that. And so that being said, when this video surfaced, and I'm going to play this video after this video, right? It's going to be two videos that I play out. But when the video surfaced of Saweetie on her, I don't know, her terrace, penthouse view, whatever, and she's literally up there shaking cakes, basically nude, all I could think to myself was this not the very same person who was telling us all, public proclamation that she was now in her self-love era, her self-love journey. She was discovering who she was. She didn't need no man to validate her. She was renouncing the old self. She was stepping into a new spiritual understanding of who she was. And like the fool that I used to be, I believed it when I heard it, because I was basing off of my own experience. I said, well, when I said that to myself, I really started to make changes in my life. I started to make the sacrifices necessary to get to a place where I could actually value myself. I could see myself from a place of love as opposed to a place of disdain or self-hatred or whatever else it may be. And so again, when I heard this from Saweetie, I should have known, because Holly Weird knows nothing but this weirdo behavior. I should have known that it was, out them streets and back in them streets as fast as she came from them. And this one hits different because she's from the Bay Area. I'm from the Bay Area. And, let's just say I've heard from certain family members that they tried to let her know early on in her career not to put herself out there in the same way a lot of these female rappers were. And she decided that instead of being the Stanford graduate or the Stanford student that she actually was, instead of being the intelligent, intellectual black woman that she actually was, she wanted to be ratchet. She wanted to be twerking it for the public and mass consumption. So anyway, I'm going to play this first video to show y'all where things started and where things currently are. And then we're going to break this down at a subatomic level.
I would say elevated. Because even when
Hold up. I just realized this thing ain't even up on the screen yet. Hold up. Okay. Run it.
I would say elevated, because even when I cut my hair, they're like, oh, new hair, new you. And I'm like, no, new year elevated me.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't feel new. I just feel elevated. I have a higher sense of like awareness, responsibility. So I do feel like I have to be careful, not even careful, but I'm going to pay attention to what my next message is.
I'm going to pay attention to what my next message is. Let's run that back just to make sure one more time.
Not even careful, but I'm going to pay attention to what my next message is.
Okay, fantastic. Now, when you hear something like that, you think to yourself, it's a beautiful thing. I believe everybody is capable of change. Now, will they? Likelihood is not, statistically speaking, but everybody is able to transcend, transform, renew themselves, renew their minds, etc. Unfortunately, this is not one of those cases. Yeah, let me just go ahead and pull this up. I will definitely have to blur this out or just block it out, but you guys basically will catch exactly what's going on in this clip. So this is the clip that is currently viral of Saweetie on her balcony, terrace, whatever you may call it. And the song playing in the back is Bounce That Till You Can't No More, Shake That Till You Get So. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm holier than thou and that this is not music that I was saturating my mind with back in the day, because it was. To the window, to the wall, to the sweat drip down. I was listening to all that. I was getting down with the ratchetness with the ratchetness like anybody else. But there were choices I made to change my life for the better, and hopefully to continue to get myself into a place where I am living in the most respectable way, respectable to myself and then that's going to project out to the rest of the world, right? Like, I believe change is indeed for self first. If you're doing it for others, you're likely going to deviate, just like we see with Saweetie here. Now, the reason I brought this up and, want to get into the subject is because what we've learned as self-love, this idea, I believe, has been watered down, or if anything, it's like anything else. It's just been capitalized upon. So there are people who use the terminology because it's a buzzword and it's going to get them to sell more courses, they sell more books or whatever it may be. And, fortunately for me, the word was real. When I spoke on such things, it was real. It was. Now, I was afraid to go all the way sometimes as far as saying, at the end of self-love is you taking care of your mind, your body, moving different, doing different things. Like when you truly have self-love or self-respect, you're not going to be for them streets. You're not going to be up there twerking it for the world. Like that's not what self-love looks like. You could say, well, this is an expression of self-love. It's not. I'm telling y'all right now, it's like saying that, I've been on my self-love journey and it's now been 10 years. And let's say you're still grotesquely overweight, right? Or you've even gained weight. I'm telling you right now, self-love or self-respect, they're really one and the same, are going to equate to certain external things. There's going to be external factors that, kind of are the proof of self-love. That's how that actually works. And I had to accept that when I was saying, I'm doing the work, but things weren't changing. And I realized, no, you're not. You're not doing the work. You're avoiding the work and you're intellectualizing the work. The real work is not getting on a podcast and telling the world this, or getting new hair or whatever.
When I cut my hair, they're like, oh, new hair, new you. And I'm like, no, new year elevated me.
So even that is like the superficial thing. I cut my hair, I dye my hair pink. Like this is a revamping. This is a new. Most of these things are just external markers without any internal work. In more cases than not, when you actually start to dive deep and do the quote unquote shadow work or whatever it may be, when you start to heal from them traumas, you really start to dive deep and deal with yourself at the root cause, at the root level, and you stop escaping and evading and running from the negative emotions, but instead listening to what they want to tell you, what they have to tell you, what they have to reveal to you about yourself. All that other stuff will come as a byproduct. Right? That's why I brought up the thing of weight. It's not to say you can't be big or overweight and still love yourself. Yes, you can, but it's always going to be in part of the journey because you love yourself enough to take care of your body. You love yourself enough to drink enough water, right? To say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. That is a part of self-love. If you are still people pleasing, moving through life, doing whatever for whoever because you don't want to be seen as the bad guy, trust me, you're still in the beginning of that journey. And you have to be real with yourself. Just because you got sanctified, redeemed, now you got baptized. So a lot of these folks, they go to from the streets to the church, back to the streets because they never changed their habits. They never changed the way in which they showed up in life. Their character was still the same, but they thought that this thing was going to change them when truly it's them who has to change. It's you who has to choose to transform, and you do that by changing the habits. She never changed her 304 habits, her 304 behaviors. She's literally up here on a balcony, twerking for everybody with her vagina out for literally. What is that? Anytime I'm seeing any sort of twerkulations or whatever it is going on online, I think to myself, what is going through that person's mind? Like if you're sober-minded, which I guess is double contextual. If you do not have any like hard narcotics that you're on or something like that, you're not drinking, smoking, etc. Like you are quote unquote sober technically. What is actually going through your mind when you're doing that? Because it can't be anything other than a deficit. A lack of something. It's for attention. It's for the sake of getting attention, more specifically sexual attention, right? Let's be real. And so what is processing? How do you get to a place where that is now how you present yourself to the world? Because it is. It is. I say anything that you're willing to do behind closed doors when nobody is there is who you actually are. That's character. Actually, I didn't make that up, but that is what character is. Reputation is how others see you. Character is who you truly are. And at one point in your life, your reputation, your character, they're going to meet. They're going to be introduced to one another. Hello? You understand me? And if they're not the same, it's going to be very evident because there's going to be, again, a cognitive dissonance that kicks in. There's going to be a separation of, wait, who you think you are versus who you actually are. And you're going to be at war, at odds with yourself. So she believes herself to be the self-loving, I care about myself, I love myself. And then she ends up in the very same toxic cycle. Some of y'all know Saweetie better than I do. So you know that she's likely back and forth in toxic cycles. I just know that, she was with, one member of the Migos, then she was with his cousin, the next or whatever it is, sleeping around with dude's cousin. And again, that's not my business. But I will still say that this person's character is shown through the way in which they're demonstrating, showing up in the world. To me, I don't separate the artist from their art. I really don't. If you continue to show up in a certain way, if your music is continuously sending a certain message, that's a message you stand behind. And that music has continued to be the very same, at least from what I remember. Rich 8 figures, that's my type, right? Materialism, twerking something, shaking something. Who is she collaborating with? The hot girls and the Cardis. Like it's that energy. But again, Saweetie is nothing more than, I guess, an expression of what's currently happening in the culture that I believe we need to disown. This part, it's the lying to ourselves. It's the I love myself, I care about myself, Black queen, you understand me? Hashtag melanated goddess. Really? Do you really feel that way? Or are you using that as a way to masquerade from the pain that you actually feel, from the lack of self-worth that you actually experience? Why do you continue to put on another man's armor? I tell that to my brothers, like, ladies, why you continue to put on somebody else's whole entire makeup? You want to look like somebody else. You can't even accept the one that you were made as. What's that about? Oh, I'm just having a little fun. You so serious? No, it's not just having some fun. It's you disowning who you actually are and who God made you as. And so you have to look like somebody else. You always constantly have to be something else other than yourself. Which one is Saweetie? I believe that Saweetie is, the girl who grew up in the Bay, went to, I said Stanford, I believe it's actually Santa Clara where she went. Stanford or Santa Clara, one of the two. Santa Clara is a phenomenal college or university. But I believe that there is as much of that, if not more of that, but she believed that she had to become this other caricature, this other depiction. Like Sexy Red, I believe that's actually her. I believe she's ratchet, she's hood. I believe she's not very intelligent, etc. But a person like this, it's like, it's a makeup. It's a character. She put it on in order for her to, at least what she believed, in order for her to gain the sort of notoriety she wanted. And for me, I say, what good is the gain when you had to sell your soul, when you had to sell your entire dignity, your pride, your sense of self-respect? What good is that gain? Is it gain at all? I believe it's a loss. If I had to get on here every single day and show up as somebody else and speak on things I don't give a damn about and lie, like if I had to live a lie, I couldn't do it. I couldn't even live with myself. I can't go to sleep at night without knowing that I did what I needed to do that day, which is to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. If I'm not living like that, I'm not living right with myself. And so, again, when I saw that, I was like, man, this has to be spoken to, because I remember sis. I remember when she started to have her little transition moment. And I believed it a little bit, enough to be like, okay, maybe she finally gets that she's been living a certain way, etc. There are few and far between examples of people who make that transition in the public light. I think it's not that it's harder, it's just the temptation is incredible at those levels. So you have to really disown that entire way of being in order for you to transform and transcend. And yes, I do believe that anybody can change. I believe that anybody is capable of it. But do I believe that everybody will? Again, statistically speaking, no. Most will not. Most will continue to go in circles, live in limbo, and essentially pretend, tell themselves a story that they're not really living. So I'm not going to tell myself who and what I am, because I really can't for long enough. The cognitive dissonance is too much for me. That's why I had to really get on my shit when it comes to my gifting, my purpose in this life, That's why I doubled and tripled down. That's why y'all see me putting out content at the rate, because this is what I was born to do. Before I was telling myself all these affirmations, I wasn't putting in that work. I wasn't demonstrating it to myself that I'm worthy of this. I am this person. The identity had a split in it. And so I said, I got to meet those two together. I got to live what I speak what I live. That's why I don't write a single script for anything that I create. I don't write any scripts for this. I might have, subjects or whatever it is that I want to talk about, but it's all off the top because it's who I am. So, it's an expression of what's going on within me. Whatever's in the heart of man will be shown outwardly to the world. It will bear fruit one day. So never forget that. Don't fake the funk. It's worth it to do the work. Peace. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.